self-esteem, workplace-related topics.
Subscribe.
The Voices of Victory podcast show.
Voices of Victory.
Vision.
Voices of Victory.
Leadership.
Voices of Victory.
Workplace-related topics.
The Voices of Victory.
Voices of Victory. Voices of Victory. Voices of Victory.
It's time for the show. You are now listening to the Voices of Victory podcast show.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mario D. Leone.
Hello and welcome to the Voices of Victory podcast show, and I am your host, Mario D. Leone, where we talk about all things leadership, all things self-esteem, and all things self-development, as well as confidence and workplace-related topics. And today's episode is the false idea of no time. When people say, no time, I don't have any time. But what are you really saying when you say, I don't have time? Let's cut to the real, because this one's very tricky. You say you don't have time, but your day is filled. It's not filled with your values. It's not filled with your vision. It's filled with noise and distraction. That's the big key point here. Now, this episode isn't a productivity hack. It's shining a spotlight on people who use this phrase. More than that, it's an invitation to really understand, to unpack the truth behind that phrase when people say, I don't have time, right? Because often enough, it's not about clocks. It's not about calendars. It's about values. And you know what? When they say, I don't have time, it's a mask that covers up their fears and covers up the need for control. And sometimes it's deep hidden beliefs about who you think you're allowed to be. So today I'm going to break this all down, these truths behind the I don't have time trap. It's not superficial, it's not strategic, but it's going to be soul level deep today, because I'm going to reveal the concepts behind everything. So let's look at the very first principle. The first one I like to call defense against desire. So what do I mean by that? Because we're going to talk about this in almost an unconscious fashion, dealing with the unconscious mind. Saying that you don't have time, what does it do? It protects you from the anxiety of your own desires, right? Our brains avoid conflict by simply pretending that you never wanted to be something in the first place. It's better to be busy than to admit that you're actually afraid or scared of your own ambition. And that leads us over to another unconscious idea. I call it the superego sabotage. It's to really get to the idea, the core, that the inner critic of who we are, that superego as it's called, it says you can't do that. That's selfish. That's indulgent. You're not allowed to do that. So what that person might actually do is just bury the meaningful ideas under the mandatory. It's not because you can't. It's because you don't think you should. That's that whole idea right there. Now, another unconscious idea would be the avoidance of emotional exposure. They have to be able to be emotional in cases like that, where there's accountability involved. So time becomes the shield, because if you really tried and it really actually mattered to you, you really actually do it, and it just didn't work. Then if it didn't work, then you'd have to feel failure, you'd have to feel loss, you'd have to feel regret. So the I'm too busy becomes emotional insulation. That's what that's all about. Now, looking at it in terms of freedom in regards to our unconscious mind, the fear of freedom, freedom means responsibility, and some part of you might be scared of that. So it's easier to be tethered to the to-do list that you already have than to face the open space of choice. Freedom demands identity. It asks, like, what do you want to create? What do you want to do? And that question can actually be terrifying, absolutely terrifying. Now, a key little point in regards to all this, a little side note, is when we're dealing with somebody who has ADHD, the game changes a little bit. So when someone with ADHD says, I have no time, the core issue often includes time blindness to them. So that's a misjudging of task duration, how long it actually takes to do things. And that leads to lateness, in terms of executive dysfunction, struggling to plan, prioritize, which causes massive overwhelm. And then finally, procrastination, which is avoiding boring or anxiety-inducing tasks while distractions actually steal their time. Now, that also puts them in a place of hyper-focus. And what happens is they hyper-focus on non-priorities. And when it's a non-priority, guess what? You lose track of time on less important activities. So it leads to emotional dysregulation, distortion of time, right? And then poor task initiation, delaying the actual start. That's what happens. They delay the start. They're like, oh, well, I should do it. I want to do it. And they just keep delaying that start. So all of these things literally create a cycle where time feels scarce despite the available hours, right? So I just wanted to bring that up as a side point, is that it is a little different for people with ADHD. Now, when it comes to the next key point in dealing with the unconscious mind, there's a loyalty to chaos on a deep subconscious level. So some people might have grown up with the dysfunction that chaos may feel like home, that they're comfortable with chaos, right? They may be comfortable with their environment that way. So the stillness, having that stillness, that quietness, it feels like danger to them. So what happens is they might just stay busy. They might stay overbooked, overscheduled. You recreate the noise because the silence might actually reveal the pain that you've actually never faced or dealt with. So that's the loyalty to chaos. When it comes to values on an unconscious level, when it comes to values, confusion of values, a person may say that they value growth, but their schedule shows otherwise. Why? Well, because value requires clarity and self-confrontation, that you actually have to face yourself. And you know what? That actually takes courage. So it's the kind of thing that says, if I matter, I have to act like it, you see? And that's where it boils down to just confusion of values. And that's why when you get your values straight, when you understand your why becomes your core essence. And that takes an internal value audit, really, to do that. Now, on an unconscious level, decision-making deficit. This is basically leading to a distrust of yourself. You don't trust your own yes or no. So what do? You overcommit. You say maybe to everything. And suddenly you're drowning in obligations that don't serve you. Not because you don't have the time, but because you haven't cultivated discernment. You don't need a time coach. You need to trust in your own internal authority when your gut instinct tells you that this is the proper way to go. That's the interesting part about that. Now, when it comes to unconscious behavior, some folks avoid intimacy with getting to know who they actually are, getting to know themselves. So if you stopped and had space, what would come up? Grief, anger, desire, what would come up? Because most people fear not what time will allow, but what will time actually reveal. And that's an interesting aspect. And again, this is from an unconscious point of view, where it's deep rooted and comes to the surface. When we are looking through the lens of unconscious behavior or dealing with the unconscious mind, there is an over-identification with productivity. Like, I have to feel busy, right? So a person could believe that their worth equals their output. So rest feels lazy, reflection feels wasteful, and value is measured in tasks that are checked off, not in meaningful connections with yourself and other people that have been lived out. So what happens is you fill the hours with meaningless things because the silence actually threatens your sense of identity, your sense of self. It's interesting, right, when we look at it this way. Now, for some people, when they say, I don't have time on an unconscious level, there's a refusal to ask for help. It's like, I have to do everything myself. I have to do all myself. You're carrying too much, but instead of delegating, you default to martyrdom. Why? Because asking for help feels like a weakness. But let me tell you something. Leadership is not a solo performance. It's relational intelligence at the end of the day. It's learning to say, this is worth doing, and I'm not going to do it alone. Now, you don't have to have people take on Herculean tasks that you have, but you could look at things that are overwhelming and start to farm them out to people that can do them faster than you. It's not a big deal. But for some people, it's like if they farm it out, it's like an admission. It suddenly seems to admit that's like, well, if I can't do it, then I'm less than. So I don't want to farm that out, because if I delegate that to somebody, it means I can't do it myself, right? That hyper independence, that's where it leads to. So what's the truth behind your I don't have time? Is it the fear of being seen? Is it the loyalty to your old self? Is it the lie that you don't matter enough? Whatever it is, you got to bring it to the surface, because time is not your enemy. Avoidance is. Avoidance is the biggest one. The I don't have time is probably by far the biggest excuse out there. Now, there probably are, percentage-wise, there are some people that officially don't have time. But when it comes down to that, it all comes down to high value, low value, what you prioritize, what your values are, and how you actually learn how to consolidate your time and let go of things that are low value on your schedule. So it's not always the I don't have time. It's the management. It's time management and the concept of what you value, because there are things that are low value that are wasting your damn schedule. This isn't about adding more to your plate. It's about removing what doesn't belong there, looking at the unnecessary and stripping away all the nonsense. You have time. What you need is permission to trust yourself, to honor your values, to reclaim your attention from things that never deserved it to begin with. So when people say that whole "I don't have time" thing, you really have to strip all that away and really look at their schedule. Now, keep in mind, I want to say, like, there are people that say, no, but I'm a single parent and absolutely, I have no time. Listen, I'm going to be real with you. There's got to be some resources and help out there, okay? So there's got to be some resources and help out there where you could farm out some of your things. You can start delegating to other people. Say, I ask people, I need your help. Please help me, right? Ask people. So sometimes you don't have anybody. Like sometimes you don't have family. There are people out there that don't have family and they don't have a lot of friends and they need to find resources outside that. And the bottom line is in order to keep your brain in sanity to some level, you have to understand your brain is the GPS of your life. You're going to have to dig deep for outside resources and find and connect with people that can actually support you. So if you're feeling stuck as if no one's available to help you, you really need to start opening your mouth and actually asking for help, finding help, being able to connect. Maybe there's mental health organizations like NAMI.org, right? That is out there. There's a lot of different ones that can actually help you. So sometimes the biggest victory is choosing your time like it's sacred because you actually are. Now, I was one of those people firsthand that would say, I don't have time. And you know what I realized? I realized that I destroyed my schedule by low value things. That's me personally. Not everybody's going to have the same experience. So I'm going to have compassion for people out there. But yes, it is more about how the time is managed. It is often used as a deflection, like an absolute deflection. And today's episode was all about the unconscious nature, the things that are deeply rooted below that excuse. All right. Have a great day, and I'll see you on the next episode.